people are always looking at the past like, oh, remember those times. And right now I'm like, I fucking love where we're at right now in our music scene.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Welcome to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. Today, I have Mick, and you may know Mick from Mick's Bag on WEFT, and also part of the MNG Collective, which we will be talking about today. So, Mick, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Sven. Thanks for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about what the MNG Collective is all about.
Great question. I'm glad you asked. Let me just start from the beginning here, which is I came to Champaign-Urbana 4 years ago. Really wanted to get involved in the music scene. And it became clear, like, through the music scene, and this is, like, not any crappy remark about what's happening in Champaign-Urbana, because I think what's happening here is amazing. However, I think, like, with COVID happening and kind of seeing things from a more behind-the-scenes angle with doing bookings and just being a part of the scene, there was like some issues with equity, right? Like we saw that COVID was really impacting people who are musicians and who relied heavily on that income. You know, there weren't any shows being booked. So that definitely sat in the back of my mind. And Nick Stein reached out to me last summer. I was like, hey, Mick, I got this idea. What do you say? Like, let's get together and let's talk about doing a compilation album. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was Buzz Magazine that did it. It was the Cover Our Tracks. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was unfamiliar with it. Nick's like, we should do this project. Do you know anybody else that would be interested in it? And I'm pretty good friends with Greg of the auctions, Greg Lushin. And I was like, well, let's bring Greg on. Let's just see what he, feels about this. Yeah, through that whole us meeting up together, we kind of decided to switch gears, and instead of doing the Cover Our Tracks, we started kind of hashing out ideas about equity in the music scene, because I think we all agreed that we saw some things that could use some attention in the music community. We wanted to be able to provide support to people. So from that was born MNG. Mick, Nick, Greg. It's actually the Musicians Network Gestalt, but it's also Mick, Nick, Greg, if I'm being honest here.
I mean, that was probably what happened first, right?
It was
Nick and Greg.
Nick, Greg. Yeah, we kind of like hashed it out over a couple different meetings of like, what should our name be? And Nick had said, well, the word Gestalt, it means that all parts equal more when they're together than when they're separate. So if we're thinking about equity, when we pull our resources together and we engage in like mutual aid as a community, we can do a lot more than if we just did things individually. I kind of like that concept of Gestalt.
The idea is there, the concept, the full name is there. So how are you using this collective as a way to equalize or to offer equal representation?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple different ideas that were born from us putting this group together. So the first idea is that we'd like to have a safety net for the music community. We understand that COVID was just like an unprecedented time, and a lot of people were left high and dry because there wasn't any kind of like fund specifically for musicians in town. It's not like you can like go to your local unemployment office and be like, oh, I'm a full-time musician, like how many of the musicians that are like self-employed were like filing their 1090 or whatever.
Right.
So we definitely wanted to pull together a fund for people to apply for a micro grant. Let's say they're like having some kind of issue and they're like, hey, I really need this extra money. Like, we want to be able to have money for that and help crowdsource for that. And not in like a gatekeepy kind of way either. We just, no questions asked. You need our help. We're here to help you. I think another thing that we talked about too is widening out this Venn diagram, because it feels like in our scene, everybody kind of knows everybody, but yet there's like a even bigger scene happening, like with the DIY scene and just new people coming into town all the time, even older folks who aren't necessarily playing the scene, but like clearly make music and want to like get themselves out there. I think the idea too was to build a wider connection in our music community, and that can be through like pop-up events, comp albums. It's kind of like a double dip situation, because we just put out a comp album and some of that money went towards Girls Rock CU, because that's another thing. We want to be able to like support local initiatives with the money that we raise. But then I think like the thing I'm most excited about is being able to have money that we allocate for people to record their music. Because I think that's a real big issue with equity in our community. If you have the finances, you can get your music recorded, and that's a way for you to build your portfolio. I mean, as somebody who books for like a local venue, a lot of times we're asking artists to provide us with their latest Bandcamp, their latest Spotify, their YouTube link, anything that showcases their work. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to like get booked for a gig. So we want to be able to do that. And we're hoping that as time goes on, as we're able to get the word out about MNG, that we can hopefully raise the funds to be able to provide people with an opportunity to record music. Because I feel like that's a big issue,
Does MNG in itself have its own recording studio at all, or are you working on that? Oh, okay.
We don't. And I feel like this is a great way to kind of bridge different initiatives. Like Failed Poem Records is an initiative that you do, right? Where you are also trying to make music accessible for people. Like you want to be able, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's essentially what you're wanting to do as well.
I guess I didn't necessarily think of it in that way, but I do seek out music that doesn't necessarily get always publicly played or focused on. I really love the emerging artist, the undiscovered artist or underrepresented artist. And so I can't say that was my full intention to make that available, but also it's kind of a wonderful side effect of what just approaching it in the way that I have. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I think because we each individually have relationships with different individuals in town that have the capacity to record music, ultimately our goal would be for whoever it is that we're able to help get, some tracks recorded through our like funds. We'd want them to pick who they feel comfortable working with, but having that connection with people who are recording in the music community, our hope is that they would also help us make that accessible and affordable so that we can impact more of the community than just a small fraction. So I do want to can I give shout outs on?
I mean, as long as they're quiet shout out. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
make them as loud as you want.
Shout out. I do want to give a shout out to Matt Wenzel at Shangri-La Studios, because he helped us put together this first comp. Like, he did the mastering for us, and he's also worked with a lot of artists in the community. And I feel like his work is super quality, and he's also been like super gracious in making his services accessible for people. Also want to give a shout out to James Treichler at Wave Upon Wave Studio, because he also helped us out quite a bit with this comp album. And it's just like building those personal relationships. And, honestly, we would love if anybody who's listening, like, has any suggestions. Like, we want to see more like women and like trans non-binary folks who are also recording music, who have the capacity to help record. Like, we want to expand our knowledge of who exists in the community so that we can, give that information or pass that information along to people who want a diverse list to choose from. So
honestly, I always hesitate to say things like this because as a cis white male, I'm like, what would I even know about this? But from what I have observed and from the best that I can understand is that representation is key. Like
100%.
If you don't see someone who is doing what you'd like to be doing, you just figure it's not possible. You don't just, well, that I never see people like that are like me, that are out there, that are doing that. So why should I? The hesitancy to be a trailblazer also, I'm sure, that is in itself a huge barrier.
Absolutely. I mean, being the first one of any person, of any group of people that's doing something, I think that can be a lot. That can be like a lot of weight that a person's carrying on them, because they're now representing an entire group of people or an entire community, and they're like, what the fuck? I don't want this responsibility, Right. I think that's a big thing that we've talked a lot about. I mean, I'm a woman. Greg and Nick are two cis white men. They're very much aware of how their privilege impacts their accessibility to music. And I think it's something that they very much want to use to help bridge the gap in our community. Like, I respect that they're like, absolutely, we have privilege. We would like to use our privilege to help other people like get their foot in the door and address the issues of equity in our music community. So they're two good dudes to be working with. I'm happy to have had this opportunity to build this like creative relationship with them.
What's on the horizon? What's next for MNG?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up our first comp album. So for those who are listening, you can find us on Bandcamp at MNG Compilation. And I think it's MNG Compilation, or it might be MNG Comp.
Hey, Sven here. It's mngcomp.bandcamp.com. So if you want to look that up, that's where it's at. And if you go into the search at bandcamp.com, you can search for MNG Compilation, and it also comes up. I tried it. I will also have a link to the MNG Comp in the show notes.
We just wrapped that up. All of the proceeds from that first round of fundraising went to Girls Rock CU. I'm proud to announce we raised $500 for Girls Rock CU. So our next round of fundraising, we are hoping to raise some money to give to C4A, which is the Community Center for the Arts in Urbana. They've got a scholarship fund open, and it's intended to help serve the community. So if you have like a financial need and you want to get into some type of music class, C4A's got you covered with their scholarship fund. So we're hoping to raise some money for that. And yeah, we're just going to be pulling together some more artists for this second round of compilation. So if you're listening again and you feel like, hey, I want to be featured on your next comp album, send us a message on Instagram, or you can find me at MICS _bag, BAG _90.1. Just send me a message. I'll happily listen to your track and we can talk about get you on that next comp album. So essentially that's what's next for us. We are working on putting together another comp album that we hope to release in time for the Fall Hog Shoot. If it doesn't make it by then we will have it hopefully by the end of the year. We're going to be meeting up, talking about putting together some showcases to showcase some different artists that were featured on our first comp album. And honestly, one thing I really want to do is like dig even harder into this DIY scene in town, because I feel like there's some untapped unknown talent that I would love to bring into our like mainstream music, scene. So, and like check out some of these outskirt dive bars where there's like older musicians playing. Like, I want to know all the things that are going on in the music community that's outside of our mainstream.
Honestly, sometimes it's a little bit too much to take all in, but if you just think about it as taking all the little bites and getting in, it's all good.
Chop. Yeah, no, I think if you do think about it as a whole, it's overwhelming, because it's like, oh my God, there's so many people that I don't know about. And, I think what's exciting about Champaign-Urbana, and truly what makes me feel proud to be from this area, is that we are like such an incubator of creative energy. There's so many cool things popping up in each semester. It's like you're just like scrolling through Instagram, like what new house show venues popping up. I think that's what's really cool, because that scene on its own is able to like tap into like people that are just kind of moving through town that aren't going to be here forever, but like have this really cool perspective, want to like bring something from wherever they're from. And there's just like lots of weird, funky stuff cooking up here in town. It makes me real excited.
It just surprises me how many genres are just represented in general. Like,
totally.
Funny, I'm terrible with genres, but there's a lot.
Absolutely.
There's just tons.
The punk scene, seeing like a revival, like Snacked Out is like a newer project in town. Like I feel like the Brass Rail's really picking up the slack with the punk scene. Oh, also shout out to Greg, Cash for Gold Records. That's his independent punk label. So he's graciously provided us with some of his punk stuff for the comp album. So
awesome.
Yeah, It's good to have that perspective. Because, you got Nick, who's like country, but also was kind of like what did somebody once describe Nick as? And I thought it was so funny. Crust punk.
Crust punk.
He was like kind of crusty punk, like back in the day, listened to some weird stuff. And, he's got like a really well-rounded taste of music. And then, I don't know, my taste of music is all over the place too. So it's kind of interesting to meld all these things together for a comp album.
What do you see? I mean, granted, we just talked about what was just around the corner, but what do you see? This is like such a job interview question. Where do you see MNG in 5 years?
We talked about that from the beginning of how this may be somewhat of a limited project for us, but the hope is that we build the bones and the foundation for MNG to pass it along to other people that are interested in sustaining this mission. We feel like there's enough people in this community that really care about each other, that really care about equity in not just in the music scene, but in life in general. So, our hope is that we can keep things rolling for as long as we can. And then once people are interested in being a part of the collective, because it's not like a closed group, right? If people came to us and were like, we want to be a part of your collective, like, absolutely, please join us. We feel like the more perspectives, the better, We don't want to gatekeep. That's the last thing we want to do in this situation. So hopefully we've got more people a part of the collective, people that want to kind of take over and share some new ideas. Who knows what the future holds. In an ideal world, this thing would be moving and we'd have other people also investing in it. Even us, like, we're all human. We all have different things we're involved in like a million projects we're all working on. But, I think the one thing that keeps us moving forward is that, like, these social justice issues aren't going anywhere, sadly. And I will say that the one thing that I've really come to understand, especially through COVID, is that, like, mutual aid is, like, pretty much it. I feel like mutual aid's, like, the thing that's going to get us through the other side. I mean, capitalism, unfortunately, it's an ugly beast and it's a tough one to fight. So unless we're like willing to keep on this like grassroots mission of like keeping our community supported through mutual aid, I just don't know how we'll keep that train rolling.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention about MNG?
Other than just like, check us out on Bandcamp and feel free to find us on Instagram. You can also look up Greg at Cash for Gold Records, and that's FUR, not Cash for, but Cash for Gold Records, or find me at mix_bag_90.1. Like, we're happy to answer your questions. We'd love to have more people on board who are willing to participate in comp albums or who want to just be a part of the mission. Yeah, that's kind of like my piece about the MNG stuff.
Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening. Located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Welcome back. So, Nick.
Yes, Sven.
Do you have a favorite Champaign-Urbana venue? It could be DIY. It could be...
Do I?
It could be a business. It could be a festival stage. It could be... Go.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep it 100, right? This is what you're asking for. Let's keep it 100 on this show. I love the Rose Bowl. I love it. I have to share that this is one of the reasons I think I feel so connected to our scene. So when I first moved back to the Champaign-Urbana area, I had lived here when I was younger, moved away, came back like 4 years ago. I had a house on Illinois Street and I would walk to the Rose Bowl and I didn't know anybody. So I'd walk down to the Rose Bowl and I'd like check things out, hang out by myself, and like slowly started making friends with people, the regulars, right? Because they'd be like, oh, I see you come back again, and who are you? And, you know, there's just a sense of community there that I really appreciate. I feel like the people that work there don't just see you as like a dollar sign. They see you as like a human. You have like real relationships with these people. I love Charlie. I love Chachi. I think it's really amazing to have two people that are so invested in the scene that are like really open to your ideas too. Like I've come to Charlie with some fucking crazy ideas. Like I really want to do this. And he's like, all right, Mick, let's make it happen. Send me an email. Let's see what we can do. I love it. I love the inclusivity of it. You know, this is like an old honky tonk country bar that has somehow manifested into like a catch-all, right? It's like hosting like Queer Wet Dreams Collective. It's hosting like punk shows. It's hosting experimental shows. I know like Karthik Karkarella helped put together the, what was it called?
Prairie Noise Invasion.
Prairie Noise Invasion, yes. Right? Like they're super open to the whole scene. And it's not just the home of country western music, you know? Like people walk in and they're like, okay, I'm here. I really identify as like an Urbana weirdo, and it is like an Urbana weirdo spot.
You know what the icing on the cake is right now is that they just had the side painted with the roses.
Shout out to Kinsey Fitzgerald, you precious angel. Yeah, Kinsey did that. I love Kinsey so much.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
And I think that's really cool too. Like they support not just like musicians, they support the local art scene, you know? They've had like quite a few pop-up art festivals in the parking lot. Like they're just doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Mark Reblay at all?
It's not. I hate when I don't know these things, but
it's okay.
It's not kicking
he's
in my
not
head.
local, but he's this like electronica artist. On his Instagram page, he just like put out a song. And the beginning is, you get the damn babysitter, then you put the damn baby in the thing. So I just say that all the time now. My partner gives me a 3-a-day limit. After I've reached my 3, he's like, no more. I can take no more of the babysitter in the thing. Okay? So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Rose Bowl did it. They got the damn babysitter and they put the damn baby in the thing. They're doing it.
I don't know. They feel like the initial soil that after the pandemic happened, that it was like the first soil that was fertile, and now everything is just kind of growing things on it once again. Like
absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's interesting too, because I feel like I was outside of Champaign-Urbana during this like golden age of like Mike and Molly's and the High Dive, and this era that people like look back on so fondly, like, oh, you should have been around for this time. And, you know, while it's kind of sad that like I missed certain shows that happen, like Lord Huron playing at Mike and Molly's, or like somebody that's like blown up that got their start in these like little podunk bars in Champaign. I also like don't feel sad that I missed out on it, because I feel like I'm here for this really potent time in our music scene's history. You know, people are always looking at the past like, oh, remember those times, and right now I'm like, I fucking love where we're at right now in our music scene.
Right.
I think it only continues to get richer and richer as we, as a community, embrace diversity in the growing scene, and like the trans and non-binary community and all the artists of color. Like we're only as rich as like what we have to offer this community. Like, I'm just going to say it. It can't just be like cis white men playing the shows every night. It's got to be like a little rich, and I think we're doing okay. I think we're making some improvements.
We can't help but talk about your radio program on WEFT, or WEFT, as some kids like to call it.
Oh, that old bag?
Yes, your mixed bag. And tell me a little bit about that radio program. Thanks
for asking about it. Thanks for giving WEFT a shout out. We need all the shout outs we can get. We need your money. Mixed bag. I just celebrated 3 years actually this past May. I've done the show for 3 years, and kind of another thing that was born out of me moving back to the Champaign-Urbana area. It's kind of sad, but it's not that sad. I got a divorce, and so I moved back to the area from my hometown of Arcola. I was like, I need to get out of this small town. I need some diversity. I'm just like, I'm losing it. So I came back to the area and actually group listening to WEFT. My dad has been a long-time listener, and he used to love the Old Timer, who was on at my time slot 6 to 8 p.m. on Saturdays. And the Old Timer would like give my dad a shout out, and he had like this real like kind of country honky tonk voice. He's like, I want to thank Troy Kaufman for listening to WEFT. And I loved it. I always thought it was so cool. And I was really trying to find myself after this divorce, and it was like, you know, I'm obsessed with music. I've always loved it. In fact, I hope it's okay that I like my ADHD brain goes here, but like Sven, you and I met, but you don't remember it, and that's okay. But I do remember it, that we met because you were in the Parkland Community Choir, and I was in Chambers Choir at Parkland. And so we would like sometimes combine our choirs and do pieces together with Barb Zacco.
Yeah.
She's like, Zacco rhymes with taco.
That's right.
I loved those days of having music a part of my life. And, you know, I was really like racking my brain, like, how can I be a part of the music community and showcase music that I like and introduce people to new stuff, and also hear other people's perspectives. Because at the time too, I was like, I'm lonely and I need to make friends. And I feel like music has always been a really easy way for me to make friends with people. So I put in my proposal. Old Timers time slot was open. I wrote in the proposal, like, I've grown up listening to WEFT at this hour. Give me the show. And they were like, okay, you can have the show. And then I think they regretted it immediately after. It's mostly because Sean Lampkin, he's been my co-host on many episodes. And it's great that you have this format, this podcast, to just say what you want. Because on the radio, there's no editing, right? Right. Like the shit that comes out of his mouth, there's times where I'm like, oh, this is fucking it. We're done. They're taking the show away from me. Like, he's always talking about going to Pia's. He's like, because he pretends that he has stepkids named Ronnie and Donnie. And I asked him, I'm like, what color is their hair? He's like, clearly red. And his wife, Donna, they get into a lot of tiffs. So he goes down to Pia's to cool off and hang out with the other stepdads. I know. No. Like, I'm surprised Pia's hasn't called us and be like, we'll sponsor your show. Absolutely. Like, as much airtime as he gives them. But no, like, Mixed Bag was just kind of born out of this time where I really needed to feel connected to the community and just wanted to like make some new friends and play some good music and like feel some joy during kind of a sad time of my life. And you know, honestly, I feel like the show has carried me continuously through some tough times like COVID and just the transitions of life and growing pains. And, the real concept of the show is that it is a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of music, of commentary, of people. I've had a lot of different guests come on the show, and really the idea is for them to bring music to share and to be prepared to talk about it a little bit. It's kind of like, kind of like a podcast. Like, curate this set list and tell me a little bit about yourself through the music you're choosing. I'm sure you would agree with this. I think you can really get to know people like on a deep, like intimate level just by talking about what music they've been influenced by.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, the show airs on Saturdays from 6 to 8 p.m. And if you ever feel like you want to make your radio debut and share a playlist, again, find me on the old gram, because I'm always looking for new guests. I want to feel surprised and connected. And admittedly, some of my favorite songs ever have been from stuff people have shared on the show. So
awesome. Yeah, and we actually got to be guests together on the Analog Hour.
The Analog Hour. Yeah, that was cool. Didn't you bring some Angie Heaton?
Yes. Well, it was the oh my gosh, Corn Dolly was what I brought. The single, the 7-inch.
Yeah, you had some like very like rare gems that you brought to play on the show.
Well, and it was funny. She brought it by when she came when we recorded episode 22 and was like, hey, I just had these kind of laying around. I just thought maybe you'd want them. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
That is so cool. I'm thankful that she gifted you that you could play it on the radio for everybody too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to share that I never had the pleasure of meeting Angie, but like, she was a prolific songwriter, and I had a chance to go through some of her music after she passed, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sad I never got to meet this human, because their music is amazing. Songwriting ability, incredible.
And the thing is I always felt, well, I don't know how to describe it, but, I wonder if she ever knew how
much she impacted people.
Yeah, her just her songwriting, it seems so simple on the surface, and yet the more you listen to it, instead of it being like more commonplace in your mind, it becomes more illuminating. Like, oh, that's what they mean. Yeah, I don't know. I've just found her work so. Yeah. Anyway, I could just trickle off into just grand things about Angie, but yeah,
diatribes.
Yes.
Well, no,
I think diatribes.
Yeah, yes. I think there's something to be said about that kind of maybe understated type of songwriting where the lyrics aren't super like convoluted with like these big, I don't know, packaged concepts. Like, I don't know, sometimes people can just be like very like poignant or like straight to the point about what it is that they're saying, and at the time people might perceive that as being very simple, but then like in retrospect they're like, holy fucking shit, like, wow, you know.
And my favorite was, she's just like, my songs are about crushes and death and being crushed to death.
One of my absolute favorite songs that was ever recorded out of this community is The Fight's Old Movies. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And Nick like wrote that. Uh-huh. He's like, oh, that little ditty. And like, I've like sang my praises to him a million times about this song, because there's just something so simple about it, but yet like very deep and impactful for me. Like,
And what actually kind of, I mean, follow me here on this one, but I almost feel like it is a punk version of a country song, because it's only like a minute and a half, right?
Oh my God, it's so funny you say that, because like Greg has said the same thing. He's like, I would love to cover this song. It's so fucking punk. It's like a minute and a half, and it's very punk. Like, yeah, that's really interesting, Sven. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely.
It just gets to the point, and then it's in, it's out.
It'll be over when I'm dead and gone. So good. So good. Shout out to old Nikolai. You know, one thing I really appreciate about Nick is he's not one for fanfare. Like, he is a really humble human being. I think me even like talking about him would like make him cringe a little bit. Like, oh God, no, I don't want people to know what I'm doing. Cause like, he's just such a humble human. Like we all have very different personalities. I have no issues with shameless self-promotion at all. None.
Right.
And he's just such a humble human. And I think that honestly is just made for a really cool collaboration with Nick and Greg, because we all bring something different to the table. I'm like kind of the one that's a little loud, and you know,
the question that is on everyone's mind, but probably just mine, is what makes a good music community, and even beyond just a music community, what makes a good community?
Well, I think what makes a good community, it definitely extends out to, do they have a good music scene? Honestly, like, or art scene, do they embrace and value the arts and culture? Because to me, that is what makes all the communities I've ever been to that just feel so rich and so cool and hip. It's like, do they embrace arts? Do they embrace culture? Are they people who seek out a variety of arts and culture? You know, because you could just have like the same old like prepackaged deal, but does that really make a rich scene? And I think that is part of what makes Champaign-Urbana so cool. Like, you've got Cranert that brings in like world-renowned artists. Like the Elnora Festival brings in some super cool like guitar, like virtuosos. You know, that's a cool scene. You know, you've got like more homegrown projects like the Rose Bowl and the Loose Cobra out in Tolono that I still feel is like an extension of Champaign-Urbana community, that like more like grassroots, but still like brings some bigger names. And then you've got like long time institutions like the Canopy Club that we all remember getting shit faced at and seeing some crazy show, you know. Like, I appreciate that there is a space for all types of music, and then of course like our DIY scene. So I definitely feel like we are able to accommodate and host a real wide variety of different musicians, both locally and internationally and nationally touring. Yeah, I mean, I also feel like we're a really progressive town. Do we still have issues and fault? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I do feel like as a whole, there's some really good people in this town who are like really committed to social justice and seeing change happen on a bigger scale and wanting to like boost their neighbors up to help make their lives richer. Because truly, I do feel like that mutual aid aspect is what makes our community super cool. Like, there's just cool people doing cool stuff in this cool little town. I love it. Honestly, if you asked me if you could move anywhere, where would you want to move, or where would you want to live? At this stage of my life, I want to live in Urbana, Illinois. I really do. I don't want to move. I want to stay in Urbana.
Champaign is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. What is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about some guilty pleasures right now.
Awesome.
I collect stickers. I think maybe we talked about this briefly because you gave me a failed poem records sticker. I collect stickers, and I like making collages with them. I like just like adorning my calendars with stickers. Like, it's something so tiny, it brings me so much joy in life, Sven. When I see a sticker sheet that I just like have to have, oh my God. I mean, it's like $3 to feel like a absolute bliss. It's a cheap but expensive hobby if you think about it, because it's like, it's cheap because you're only buying like a $3 sticker sheet, but then when you're buying like 300 sticker sheets, then it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with stickers. I love them.
So when did you get obsessed with stickers?
So I'm okay sharing this with the audience. I have ADHD. I've had it probably my whole life. I mean, as long as my consciousness was aware enough to have it, whatever. But I was just diagnosed recently as an adult. And some of the symptoms of ADHD are forgetfulness, inattentiveness, but it's also like hyperfixation on certain things. Like, if I fall in love with something, I can't just have one. I need to have like 100 of the thing. So while I was trying to manage my symptoms, I came to find that like decorating my planner really like colorful with stickers like has helped me like remember things. So, you know, I'm like trying to like buy all these stickers because I'm like, I really need to like get my fucking life together. I'm always missing appointments and I just feel like I'm an overall mess. And so, yeah, I like bought a couple books of stickers and then I bought a couple more and then I got about a couple more. So this was probably like 5 years ago. I was just actually diagnosed with ADHD like 3 years ago. But 5 years ago, I was like, before I had medication, therapy, all that, I was like, I have to try something. And I still use that method today. I still decorate my planner. I still decorate it really colorful. I like highlighters, like stationery in general. I'm a sucker for it. Like, people know. My friends will give me notebooks and pens and stickers. They're like, we just know you love this. So
excellent.
That's what I love. I love it.
When you say stickers, do they have to be like any kind of sticker, or do you have a particular favorite?
It's not just any kind of sticker. So, by the way, stickers have fucking gotten me some shit. Stickers got me kicked out of graduate school because I was participating. I'm like sharing so much of my life, but I'm not like bothered by it. I was participating in a sticker swap with people like nationally because sometimes people will have like cool stickers that you want. And I'm not like, I'm Jewish, so I don't like real religious type of stickers, you know, anything that's like Christmassy or like super Christian or whatever. So stickers like that, I'm not into, but like, I like colorful rainbow color stickers, rainbows, unicorns, dinosaurs, mermaids, like stuff like that. Like, okay, I'm really into that, you know. I had my favorite sheet of stickers is rainbow colored ramen noodles that I got from this company called Pip Sticks. I love them. They're like my favorite sheet of stickers.
Cool.
But I did get kicked out of graduate school because there was a mishap. Somebody had sent me these like really gross, like sexy anime stickers in a sticker swap that I did, and I put them in this teeny tiny little envelope and like stashed them with my stickers, and I like left all my supplies out on my table, and my kids like got into everything, and somehow this teeny tiny little envelope of sexy anime stickers made it into a bundle of stickers I was giving to a student I was working with in my graduate school program. Like, Sven, it was a fucking nightmare.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I got kicked out of graduate school because of those stickers. But I still love stickers. It hasn't, like, you know, hasn't taken away my love. It was a shitty thing that happened. And in hindsight, I could have, like, triple checked the shit I sent to this kid before I sent them. And, you know, there's some accountability Michaela has to take for her part in it. But yeah. So that's a fun fact. Got kicked out of grad school for stickers, but I still love them. Still love them.
I mean, stickers can only be the stickers they are.
They really, it's true. It's totally true. I know.
Wow.
I'm an unlucky person. Irresponsible, maybe, and unlucky too. I'm not totally. It just, that was irresponsible. It's fine.
I would never have seen that circle come around with that sticker. It's like, how does one get kicked out of grad school for a sticker? Okay.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, school, I won't say which school. The social work program I was in, they were like zero tolerance. Like the school I was working at was totally cool. I mean, like they reviewed it. They were like, yeah, super irresponsible, but we know this was an accident. School social worker was like, absolutely not. You're out. I was like, okay, all right, well, let me just get my shit and go then. I know, it's okay. I mean,
Mick, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. Thanks for doing this podcast. Thanks for giving people a platform to talk about the scene. It's awesome. Thank you for listening to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. This is Mick reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live. Man, these M&Ms are so good. They are so good. That's a wrap.
Champagne is also a band.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio South Beaker on the inside.
Get the damn babysitter, then you put the damn baby in the thing.